Hey guys, it's Will at Cedardale Communications, and today we're going to talk about relationships, more specifically, though, in terms of your romantic life, whether the relationship is over. The way we're going to answer this question is go over six of the major components that may be affecting your thought process right now, because if you're asking the question, you really have to go and get the information to be able to determine and check in with yourself to see, does this apply to me? And once we've gone over these six elements, you'll be able probably to answer your own question whether it's over or not. The most important thing in relationships is respect, communication, and trust. Now, if you lack any of these three items, it can be challenging to work on them if you're currently in a relationship, but generally that's your building block. And whether or not your relationship is salvageable, it comes down to these specific issues. So keep that in mind as we go through them. Now, the first item I want to mention is the emotional connection part. Now, the emotional connection is what brought you together. It's forget chemistry. When you see someone, when you're getting to know someone, there's that spark, there's that fire. You want to really get to know absolutely everything about them. Something about them drives you crazy. I don't know if maybe it's just walking down a hallway, a lobby in an apartment building, and you see this person, and all of a sudden there's like this aura around them, and all you see is them. There's something almost magical about what brings us together. And when we're getting to know each other, we're usually communicating. Communication is a huge aspect of everything we do in life, and our relationships also reflect this. Now, your partner is the most intimate connection you should have. I'm not saying everyone does, but you should have. And that speaks to the health of the relationship. Are you still able to communicate openly? Are you able to be vulnerable with each other? When you first met, was there a lot of banter, a lot of fun? Was there a lot of playfulness? That's one of the major aspects of building a relationship and keeping it going. One of the things I often like to say to people is, are you still dating? And I don't mean, are you looking at other people outside of the relationship? Are you dating her or him? Are you guys making time for each other? The number two element would be the physical intimacy. Now, what I mean by that is, does the physical intimacy, does it still appeal to you? Is it still something that when you remember the first time you met, you had this one feeling that you wanted to jump the other's bones, you wanted to, spend as much time together in a room where you can do whatever the hell you want and you're both enjoying each other's company. And when you think back about those moments, how does that make you feel right now? Do you think back and smile at your first intimate moments together, or is it something that you kind of going like, yeah, I remember the smell of the dude's feet? Some people are into foot smells, but you do you. Do you still find each other? Do you still look for moments to be together and share that intimacy? Or has life gotten too busy, or is there always an excuse for no longer being able to be intimate together? Life does happen, it gets busier, but you still have to make that extra effort to spend time together and to continue building what you've got. Are you at a point where you both care? Are you at a point where, that time is no longer important? That'll definitely speak volumes in terms of the healthiness of the relationship and the rapport you have together. The third most important is whether you agree on anything anymore. Now, disagreements are not a bad thing. It's totally okay, and it's healthy to be able to have different points of view. And it's also how you react to these disagreements. Do you still agree to disagree? Do you respect each other's point of view, whether you agree to it or not? That's really important, because at the end of the day, we can't all be exactly the same. And that's what adds a little flavor to your relationship, to the romance. But Is it constant bickering? Are you constantly at each other? Do you give each other the space to kind of cool down, that kind of thing? Because once we have these environments where there's so much conflict, you're not able to speak your mind freely. You're afraid to voice your opinion out of any issues, or you screwed up and you don't want to talk about it. And a lot of times you really do have to talk to the other person, because it's the ultimate trust building exercise to be able to talk to each other, to be able to understand each other. And whether you're not in the same place, you're still trying to understand and you want things to come together. That starts leading to a lack of sharing and a loss of comfort that makes you disconnect from that relationship. Now, another one of these elements, the fourth one, would be when someone else seems more appealing. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that an affair is going on. A lot of times this is what leads to an affair, a lot of these factors put together. But you start wandering more. Like, you have that one coworker that you always have like a good rapport, a good vibe, and all of a sudden that coworker seems interesting because I'm not getting at what I need out of my relationship or whatever reason. You lose your eyes, you lose your attractiveness for the other person. Now, this is also, it can be natural over time. There's nothing wrong with looking, but once you start going shopping, that's the issue. And I guess also when you start looking at habits, whether it's your own or your partner's, are you spending more time with other people? Because those other relationships are much more fulfilling than what you have at home. Even if it's, say for example, your boyfriend is always finding time to go with his best friend to play tennis, or to be able to do other activities, staying out of the house, going for a drink or whatever, and not coming back. Or maybe you're secretly running off to see someone else and you just say, I'm going to be busy this weekend, and you make up a story, but in fact your partner is actually going off to spend the weekend with someone else in a more intimate manner. Now it speaks to a high level of disrespect as well to the relationship, as well as to your partner and to yourself, because you're not living a healthy and honest relationship with someone that you've decided to cohabitate with or share an environment with. Now, when that basically leads to your priorities being outside of your relationship, which basically is the most harmful thing you can do in that kind of environment. The fifth one comes kind of skating along the same path. The trust is gone. Now, something would have happened, or maybe something you wrote it over time, something that you may have done inside you is eating you up, whatever the case may be. But trust itself is part of it's the foundation that makes your relationship solid. The fact that you're able to trust someone else and know, whatever, my girlfriend's going to play volleyball with a team of dudes, when you can't trust what she would do being thrown in that situation, you have to start thinking to yourself, why? Has she warranted something that I can't trust her? I'm not the biggest fan of people who like to keep exes as friends. A lot of times, if it truly was a meaningful relationship, there was a spark that brought them together. And there could be a spark that comes back later on, but when you're true to a relationship, you want to be there and invest in that relationship and make sure it works. If it doesn't work, it's up to you to have the clear conversation and to say, I need to explore different avenues. I need to see what could happen with this person because things were left unsettled. And it's just a basic part of being respectful, being honest, and being true to any relationships. You should always be ready to say, when you're ready, to be able to be honest and have a chat and say, I think this isn't going to work. Trust can be very hard to rebuild when you screw up. So anything can happen. All you can do is be honest, because honesty is still bringing your best to the relationship even after screwing up. And realize that if you are the person who did whatever the mistake was, you're going to have to put in some work. But you're also going to have to work with someone who's ready to forgive. That person may need time, that person may not forgive. And again, that speaks to the trust and the relationship you have in the relationship. Remember to always be honest and true to yourself and true to the person that you decided to have a relationship with. The last one, number 6, I think is also an interesting one because it also speaks to the health of the relationship. But your goals no longer align. You're no longer connected point by point. Your path together is not the same. A lot of times this happens because in a relationship there still is that aspect of personal growth. And personal growth is important because you both have to grow. Ideally, you're growing together because even when your path is no longer connected to the same place, you both have to work together to compromise. And is there the interest to compromise? Say, for example, you're getting a job in Chicago, but you currently live in Arizona. But you don't want to go because you have your job, but your partner has the best opportunity to be able to push his career forward. Now, are you willing to follow this person? In your heart, are you going to regret it? Are you going to bring it up every time something doesn't work out because you gave up so much? Or are you willing to invest in each other and say, okay, we're going to go over here, we're going to do this to make it work? When there's no compromise, when there's no room to talk about it, not even room to think about it, or if it takes too long to think about it, it shows that there is already a disconnect in the relationship. There's no longer that room for compromise, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're always the one surrendering everything. You're always the one bending over backwards to make things work. And on the same token, you can't expect the other person to always be taking the turn. It happens a lot with professions where you have to move a lot in business and the Secretary of State, like diplomats and stuff like that. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into a relationship, but when you feel it's worth it, you're able to invest yourself in that relationship, and the other person will recognize you and respect that you're being flexible or you're getting things done thanks to their support. There's nothing wrong with being supportive with each other, especially when you truly love that person. You respect them, you're honest, and you communicate. So, how do you know if it's over after all of this? The question I ask you is, how do you feel when you think about these specific issues we went through? In terms of intimacy, do you still desire them? In terms of respect, do you respect them? Do you trust them? Is the trust gone? Can it be recovered? You're the only one who knows the answer to this. But what I would always say to you is, it's up to the two of you to determine whether this relationship can go on, whether there's been too much damage that can't be repaired, or if things are actually salvageable. Now, all of that comes down to you having a very solid conversation with your partner, and if you can't have that conversation, you have your answer. Don't be afraid if it's over. Now, I'm glad to say in a number of times in my life I've fallen for a great person. It's been a beautiful experience, and there's nothing I would ever take back. And I admit, when things are over, it hurts like a son of a gun. There was that one connection, that really strong emotional bond that brought you together. There's the history of the amount of time the relationship has gone on. But you have to realize that some things do come to an end. You're okay to grieve it. You're okay to have those strong feelings of loss. But don't try to change things that can't be changed. The only thing you can change is yourself, how you react to situations, and what you decide to do next going forward. Now, it's hard to see now, but a lot of beautiful things come from an end. The end is usually the beginning of something new, something better, and especially when you're prepared to receive it. You're able to start looking and things start coming together. It may be very hard to see, but trust me, give yourself some faith, give yourself some time, give yourself some healing, and great things will come. One day you'll look back and it'll just be a memory that you'll be thankful for, and you'll realize this didn't suit you because it didn't last. And on the other hand, if you're able to work through it, you'll have a stronger bond than ever before. I guess I'll leave you now with, if you found any of this information helpful, please drop us a like. And if you do have any comments, do reach out to us. You can also leave a comment below and we'll be happy to talk about it, address it, or anything else that may come. Anyway, until next time, wishing you all a really awesome day, and talk soon. Take care.